Welcome back to Yang Daily. First off, a quick reminder that with the Yang Gang's over 200,000 active members, we could save over 600,000 hours per day for phone banking if they were all listeners. And every day counts. This is why I started the podcast, but I need your help spreading it. The faster, the better. In typical fashion, I've run long today, so let's get right to it. Starting a new week on the volunteer leaderboards, in phone banking calls, Louisiana has taken the early lead with 191 calls. In minutes, Arizona has her at 121. In text sent, Shelly G is taking no prisoners with a massive 32,000 out the gate. In text conversations, however, Noah In leads with 102. In event participation, Kai D somehow already has 7. In events hosted, Micah B has an even more shocking 7. In doors knocked on, Ryan P is leading a closely contested field with 151. And in canvassing conversations, it's Paul L with 38. Big thanks to everyone on those boards. You are all making the dream a reality. Our phone banking shout out today goes to Drew Corbett for creating a persuasion dialer for those phone bankers who want to go the extra mile beyond just collecting data and try to persuade Iowans to vote for Yang over the phone. This is separate from the normal dialer, but still reached at the same yang2020.com/call. Drew wants to remind people that listening first is the best way to convince people. Thank you, Drew. Our canvassing shout out today goes to Ashley Lieberman, who tweeted, quote, "Finishing up my week at Davenport, Iowa with the Yang Gang, and it was amazing. I feel so grateful to have made it out here, to be a part of this team and the wave that's coming. We had such amazing conversations with Iowans and getting commit to caucus cards. February 3rd, let's go," end quote. It'll be thanks to people like you when we realize this country's true potential, Ashley. Thank you. Anyone who can make it to Iowa, there are still 6 days left to have as much fun, make as much difference, and become as much of a legend as Ashley has. If you want to get a shout out on the podcast, tweet your volunteering efforts at Yang Daily Cast on Twitter. As is becoming a trend, I'm going to have to skip events reading today. As always, check your local events daily at yang2020.com/events. Emerson released an Iowa poll today, which had Yang at 5% and Bernie now strongly leading Biden 30% to 21%. Klobuchar shot up to 13, Warren dropped to 11, Pete to 10, Steyer at 5, and Tulsi at 5. As always, bear in mind that these polls do exclude the majority of Yang's support base by ignoring Republicans, independents, and disaffected Democrats who didn't vote Democrat last election, as well as by skewing toward older voters, so don't take these numbers too seriously. The poll also has a sample size of 450 Democrats and independents, with a relatively high margin of error of 4.6%, meaning Yang could actually be as high as 10%, even among the polling demographic, as far as they know. And this is the same pollster who put Yang at 2% last month, so he's increased 150% since last month, according to Emerson. What it does tell us is that Bernie is comfortably leading Biden because the aforementioned biases don't help Biden any. Emerson also included past polling for some of the candidates, showing that Biden's numbers have been steadily declining, that Pete started at 0, shot up to 18, and has now dropped off a cliff to 10, that Klobuchar has been picking up Biden and Pete's lost voters, Bernie has been bouncing wildly up and down, but is now at a peak, and Warren has been stagnant aside from her aberrant peak in October. But more importantly, Emerson actually polled UBI specifically, and as with the previous UBI poll, they found that the majority favor it, and only 30% oppose it, which is extremely good for a political policy. It honestly should make Dems embarrassed to have only one candidate backing it, in my opinion. Crystal of the Hill tweeted on the UBI poll saying, quote, "This is actually crazy. Andrew Yang has moved the needle an insane amount on this," end quote. Thanks for the shout out, Crystal. It really is amazing the difference one honest person with a cause can make. NPR also put out an article last night covering how Yang was barred from the last debate by the DNC raising poll requirements without releasing new polls to measure the change, and how he racked up 4 qualifying polls in a single day yesterday. The campaign released a new ad in Iowa today. It features a good portion of the speech we all love, which I call "The Kids Are Not All Right," driving home the reality that by the numbers, the economic future being left to kids today is, maybe for the first time in U.S. history, darker than what their parents had. It ends the same as the speech with, "We need to rewrite the rules of the 21st century economy so that we can look our kids in the eye and say to them, and believe it, your country loves you, your country values you, and you will be all right." I don't know what they were thinking choosing the music, as it doesn't seem to match the tone at all, but I'm totally down with the message. It's different enough to stand out from the crowd and strong enough to hit the feels of parents, as it should, because it's all true. NBC's embedded reporter Ben Pugh is backing up my feelings on the ads, tweeting that recent town halls have seen most attendees saying that they've seen the campaign's TV ads, where just a month ago, almost no attendees had. I had a poor opinion of the early TV ads because they tended to be quite generic and blended into the background. I wasn't surprised to hear no one was noticing them. The recent ads have been more unique in my opinion, and I think Ben's observations reflect that. Granted, part of it will just be people paying more attention to politics now. Either way, the money is having much better effect now, and that's good news. Andrew picked up a number of endorsements today, one from State Representative Timothy Horrigan, and another from Vice Chair of the Manchester School Board, Leslie Wunt. Then he got endorsed by two newspapers from Warren's home state of Massachusetts, those being the Sentinel and Enterprise, and the Lowell Sun. The paper said that Yang, similar to Trump, would disrupt the political status quo, but like a nimble tech startup, not a wrecking ball. They also said, quote, more importantly, at least in 2020, Yang brings a youthful energy and fresh approach to the race. He represents the best in America, thoughtfulness and optimism. End quote. They praised Yang for talking to media across the political spectrum, lamenting that other candidates had joined the cancel culture. Going on to say, quote, he believes that Trump supporters are people worth listening to, people with real concerns who have been ignored and derided by the political establishment, and he is proposing new and innovative policy solutions to their problems, end quote. The endorsement was covered in a Newsweek article as well. The New York Times put out their interviews with the candidates, including Yang. There wasn't a lot that stuck out to me in Yang's answers. Probably the most interesting was that when asked about a running mate, he reiterated his statement about preferring to have a male and female working together at the top, but also said that he would like to have an insider like what Biden was to Obama. Granted, that doesn't really narrow it down, as all the other candidates are insiders aside from Steyer and Bloomberg, but I think it's safe to say that those two fall well short on the feminine criteria. The other more notable answers were that he would defuse Trump's untruths in debates with humor, that he admires Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau for his unique progressive approach, that the alliance with Saudi Arabia will be re-examined due to the dismemberment of journalists, that vaping needs better regulation, that his success as a president will be measured by the metrics of the American scorecard, that his biggest celebrity crush is his wife, that his most memorable moment of the campaign was a man who had tattooed Yang's face on his calf, that Obama's biggest mistake was bailing out the banks instead of homeowners, and that he thinks it's important to draw Americans from all ideologies into his campaign and policies. Warren and Steyer disagreed with this last, by the way, basically saying they would run over Republicans. In fact, Warren refused to do a Fox News town hall earlier in the race, saying they were racist liars. You can find all the interviews organized by candidate and question on the New York Times site in the links. In other news, you may recall that the betting sites put Yang in the #1 slot to beat Trump a few days ago. Now leading site Predicted has Yang in 4th place to win the primary nomination, trailing only Bernie, Biden, and strangely Bloomberg. Today's daily Yang policy is something you'll find no other politician speaking about, which is making taxes fun. Yang says that the way the government handles taxes is inefficient and burdensome on citizens. He says it can be streamlined and that we can turn that day from a chore into a celebration day for everything the government provides in return. Yang promises to do the following. Instruct the IRS to implement a system whereby any American can opt into a program to have their taxes filed automatically. Instruct the IRS to coordinate with the Treasury to prepare a report on federal spending and send each taxpayer a rundown of the actual amount of their taxes that went to each major spending area, e.g. domestic programs, foreign aid, military, etc. Allow each American to direct 1% of their taxes to a specific project, department, or activity of government, e.g. Veterans Affairs, National Endowment for the Arts, etc. Increase the budget of the IRS by 50% and modernize it with the latest technology. Money spent on the IRS will almost certainly pay for itself many times over via better tax compliance and less time wasted by citizens. And finally, declare Tax Day to be Revenue Day, a federal holiday to celebrate all the projects undertaken or completed by the federal government in the previous year and announcing new projects. Taxpayers will also receive a thank you video from Tom Hanks. Today's Yang Daily 10 task is not phone banking. It's actually to play Samantha Bee's totally unrigged primary app. I was going to include this myself, but the Daily 10 team did it for me. This is the app where voters answer questions to earn points for their candidate, with the winning candidate getting all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars large prize pool donated to their candidate. We need everyone on this as there are only 2 days left. This Wednesday, the 29th, is the final day for the app. This is a super easy way to donate tons of cash to the campaign for free, Yang Gang. What you need to do is download the app from your app store. Just search for Totally Unrigged Primary. Make an account with your phone number and email. They don't spam or share either one. Open the cheat sheet with all the answers. That's included in the description links. And go back through all the days of the past months answering the questions. It doesn't take any concentration with the cheat sheet, so you can converse or do other things while plugging in the answers. If you want to be a real hero, grab someone else's phone when you're done, make an account with their phone number and email, and do it again for twice the points. In fact, if everyone did this with a few phones, we could easily triple our points in the app, which would be really awesome because Warren is only 6% behind us, and it's entirely possible that they could be saving up their questions for a surge on the last day. We can't lose hundreds of thousands of dollars to Warren at the last minute, Yang Gang. Let's secure that bag. And of course, we still do need all the phone banking time we can get in these final crucial days before Iowa. Keep in mind that all you need to do when phone banking is ask a couple of simple questions to collect data, quick, simple, and easy. And if you're one of many international Yang Gang, you can still phone bank. As Yang tweeted just last night, quote, "I find that working hard to solve a problem is often the only thing that makes me feel better about the problem," end quote. I know I feel better when I'm volunteering for the cause, and you will too. And that's our Yang News for today. Check your local events, run through those questions on the Unrigged Primary app, shoot me a tweet of your volunteering efforts, and get your name on those volunteer leaderboards. As always, please share this podcast so we can save as much time as possible for volunteering, and don't forget to Yang Daily.